Call the CJCC Executive and Operations Meeting to order for April 3rd, 2024. I think this is our first time on using the Teams platform and recognize everyone. I don't think we need to verbally go around the room, but Andrew Gar is joining us. He will be presenting in a few minutes. So I'll just move to the minutes from January 17th of 2024 that were set out or sent out in the packet. Would anyone like to make a motion regarding the approval of the minutes?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion on the minutes? Anyone have any edits or additions? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes from January 17th of 2024 as sent out in the packet signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Do we have any public comment?
No, we don't.
Okay. Then our next item is a consideration for actions to be taken by the committee, and I believe that Sarah has some new grant information to share with the group.
Yeah, if we could delay that to the grant discussion about the emerging opportunities, and that would allow Andrew to give a presentation.
Great.
That's okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, sounds great. Andrew, if you want to get started, then we're on to you to talk about the Kaleidoscope Center.
Okay, I hope everybody can hear me. This is the first time I'm on Teams too, so forgive me as I'm walking through just like everybody else. Thank you for the introduction, Andrea. My name is Andrew Gar, and I'm a certified peer specialist with the state of Wisconsin. And today I'm here to talk about a couple of different hats that I wear in the community, if you will. I'm involved with several nonprofit organizations within Dunn County that offers different programming available for individuals that live in our communities. And the first program I want to talk about today is a program that's through the Wisconsin Milkweed Alliance. I am the program coordinator for Wisconsin Milkweed Alliance, and the program I want to talk about is our Kaleidoscope Peer Recovery Drop-In Center. And the drop-in center is located in the lower level of City Hall, and it provides direct access to peer support for individuals that might be experiencing some kind of mental health, substance use, or other life-challenging event that they may be going through. It is fully staffed by trained peer supporters that have either gone through the training. Oh, did I get lost? Am I back?
No, you're okay.
Okay. It's staffed by trained peer supporters who then offer that one-on-one support for anybody that may be experiencing some kind of crisis or other life-challenging events. We really see the Kaleidoscope Center as being a community hub and a community resource for individuals that might need support, be it one-on-one, or maybe they're just looking for other information that may be available within our communities. Some of the things that we offer is not only that one-on-one peer support, but also we offer different peer-led support groups and also opportunities for individuals to have different socialization activities. Some of the groups that are offered through the Kaleidoscope Center are our Alternatives to Suicide support group, our art group. We have a session with Rookie, the therapy dog, with Becca Merrifield, which has been a hit down here at the center. We offer movie nights. We're going to be starting a fiber enthusiast group. So really just kind of opening up different things to the community that have community involvement for individuals that may feel isolated or feeling like they need some extra support, or maybe they're just struggling with some mental health challenges or substance use challenges, really providing that community support in an area that's, it's not power dynamics are kind of leveled at that point. It's not like you have to go in and see your probation officer, and that's not a kick on DOC Michelle, or going to the sheriff's department, and that's not a kick on you, sheriff. But it's just it's a space where individuals can really feel comfortable. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about today with that particular program is we have been very much a part of Project Hope and their mission and their values, and it has aligned really, really well with what our own mission and vision and values are here at the Kaleidoscope Center. And Aaron and Becca have actually helped us in supporting a funding opportunity for us to increase the amount of hours that the Peer Drop-In Center is open through a grant that they allowed us to be a part of. So currently, right now, the center is in operation Monday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Before, it was only open Monday through Thursday from 11 to 6, so definitely was able to increase the amount of hours and the amount of engagement that we've seen from the community. I was talking to Sarah a little bit before this meeting, has more than doubled since we were able to open up our hours and be able to offer those different programming modalities that I spoke about earlier. So that's a little bit about the Kaleidoscope Center. And before I move on talking about the next piece that's part of the community services that we are offering here in Dunn County, I just want to open it up if anybody has any questions about the Kaleidoscope Center or what that looks like. I feel like I went over things pretty quick, and I saw that my screen was kind of going in and out, so I hope everybody was able to hear all of the pieces. But was there any questions that anybody had about the Kaleidoscope Center?
I've got a question, Andrew, just wondering, Milkweed, the parent organization, is that a state-funded organization?
That is correct. So Wisconsin Milkweed Alliance operates under a state grant through DHS, and that's where the bulk of our funding comes from. But we also have some different community partners. I'll be very transparent that we have grant opportunities that are currently out with the Otto Bremer Foundation, with the Mayo Hometown growth grant that is currently underway right now and accepting proposals. But as a nonprofit organization, we have to be, very open to different funding sources and different funding streams to be able to keep these services open in our community. So we're trying to diversify our funding stream, because just having all of our eggs in one basket is not the way to do business, and we want to make sure that we can continue to provide these services for the community.
I have a question. Like, how are you seeing your involvement? Are your numbers growing of people that are using the various resources, or what does that look like?
Yeah, Chris, thank you for that question, and good to see you. It's been a while. One of the things that I think that I would like to speak to that might be pertinent to this particular group is since we've seen the shutdown of 2 of the local hospitals in our area, we have seen such an influx of individuals that are utilizing our services, be it the drop-in center. I talked specifically about that today, but we also run a 24/7, 7-night peer-run respite, which is Monarch House here. That's part of the WEMA umbrella. And our numbers that have happened since some of those closures that we've seen, we've had to have people be put on a waiting list to be able to come in and use some of those services. And then the other piece that we operate is a 24/7 warm line, and our numbers have tripled in the last 2 months. The amount of people that have been calling in to find resources, and I'll just be very transparent. I'm losing my provider. I don't know what to do. Who do I contact? Who do I reach out to? So those are some of the things that we're seeing on our end. If I drill down a little bit more into some of the data, with the closure of the Ellie Phillips Libertas Center, we're seeing a definite uptick in the amount of individuals that have substance use disorder concerns that are utilizing our services just kind of across the board. And, it's been kind of challenging to navigate because we're peer support. We're not a clinical setting. There's only certain things that we can offer within our setting. But, to answer your question directly, our numbers are definitely increasing with the amount of folks that are using our particular services.
I had a few questions. How many staff members do you have?
So currently, that's a good question, Angia. Currently, right now, we have 15 individuals that are on our staff, and I was just talking to Sarah. We've hired 2 more individuals, and we have another interview that will be happening tomorrow. What we would like to do is have our core staffing between 18 and 20, so we're on the mark to be able to hit that as long as the interview goes well tomorrow. And then as far as our leadership team goes, I am the program coordinator, so I oversee all of the programs that I've talked about, the 24/7 Warm Line, the Kaleidoscope Center, and the Monarch House Peer Recovery Respite. But then we also have Emma Larson, who is our executive director, that is broad picture, oversees everything at all of the pieces. And then we also have a financial manager that is absolutely responsible for keeping track of all of our finances, making sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted when it comes to funding reporting, because having a statewide grant and also just with all of our funders that we have, we want to be completely transparent with how those monies are being spent and making sure that we're providing that transparency.
And then all those different socialization classes that you have, what's your capacity and how many do you currently on average have attending?
Sure. So I think it really differs. I mean, for all alternatives, the suicide group, we have a core group of about 6 individuals that come. Capacity for any of our groups at this point is 30. I would say the one that probably right now has the most that is attending is our art and creativity group. And it's been around 15 to 20 people that are showing up regularly for those groups. But I think we try and have some niche markets, if you will, for the individuals that we're trying to serve. And not everybody has the concern for alternatives to suicide, but coming and doing an art project and hanging out with other people of like-minded mindset, that's a different thing. So that's a different pull. But for any of our groups, we have the capacity to hold about 30 individuals, but we also have the ability, if we have any of our groups that are expanding, that are at larger capacity here in City Hall, we have the ability to secure one of the larger conference rooms. So if we need to expand our capacity, we do have the ability to do that.
And then do you assist with transportation at all, or do you have brochures these are groups in the community that can help you?
Yeah, so that is actually one of the spearheads that I'm using for the Mayo Hometown Health Grant is offering some transportation opportunities for individuals within our community. We have our bus line, and it's a great bus line, but there's still a cost barrier that goes to that. So part of the grant funding opportunity that I've used to write into that particular grant is securing vouchers that we can then use for individuals utilizing any of our programs, be it the respite or the drop-in center, to be able to have that transportation to and from the center. It is an issue, right? I wish that we could offer free transportation within our community, but that's one of the barriers that we do face. Okay, any other questions about the Kaleidoscope Center before I talk about the new shiny thing I want to talk about that's happening in our area? Okay, so I'm going to shift hats now, and I'm going to put on a different hat, and I'm going to talk about Roundtable Revival. And Roundtable Revival is a 501c3 nonprofit that actually started in Eau Claire, and the whole premise behind Roundtable Revival is to offer reentry services for individuals that are coming out of incarceration, or it could be institutionalization, where individuals could use one-on-one mentoring support from identified members within the community that are then willing to work with individuals that are coming out of an incarceration situation. The program started in Eau Claire County, like I said. We actually started and developed the program at January of 2019 and was ready to have everything going. And then obviously the pandemic hit, and we had to really scale back until we were able to start that program again. We have been operating out of Eau Claire County for the last 18 months and seen some really good numbers with that. So out of that, I decided that I wanted to personally, with my passion for things in this community, bring that program into Dunn County. So I wrote a grant for the expansion of Roundtable Revival into Dunn County, and was graciously funded by the Community Foundation of Dunn County. And we are up and now running that program here. So a little bit about the program. It's literally where we are we're recruiting mentors from any walk of life within the community. It could be anybody that's on this panel, could be a mentor. It could be somebody with lived experience with incarceration. It doesn't have to be. It's really just taking individuals from the community and giving them an opportunity and a way to give back in a way that maybe they don't have the opportunity to, and working individually one-on-one with an individual that is coming out of incarceration or institutionalization, however that may be. And we have now, at this point, we've had 2 meetings. The meetings happen on the first and third Tuesdays of the month, and through collaboration with the First Congregational Church here in Dunn County, we are able to use their meeting hall as a space. We have 6 identified mentors, and we already have 4 mentees that have signed up for that program. So within a very, very short amount of time, we have quite a few individuals that are taking advantage of what this program is. The requirements that happen for any of our individuals to be a mentor is we do a preliminary check to make sure that people are meeting main criteria. And then once that check is done, any of the mentors go through a training with me as the program coordinator that outlines different things of, some of the barriers that an individual coming out of incarceration can face. And obviously all of the things that have to do with appropriate boundaries and anti-harassment, all of those key indicators that we have to do for anybody that's involved in that program. And then any of the mentees that come in literally do an intake with me or my counterpart, Tani Strong, who is a substance use counselor at Arbor Place. And then we, based on what the individual is asking for their supports and what the mentor has indicated that they're willing to bring to the table, we make a match with those individuals. And then the requirements is that the mentee and the mentor have to spend an hour of time with each other during the week. And that could be working on identified goals. That could be working on different things like securing employment, securing housing, just some of the barriers that individuals face when they're coming out of incarceration. So we're really trying to help ease that situation, because the big picture is that we want to reduce recidivism within Dunn County and ultimately within the state of Wisconsin. We would like this to grow exponentially as we continue the growth. So that's a real short overview of what Roundtable Revival is. We've had some very good preliminary talks. I had the opportunity to speak to Judge Peterson, and that's how I got invited to this particular meeting, just to be able to talk about what Roundtable is. And then as we continue to grow, we're actually going to be looking at other funding opportunities. But right now we're in a big recruitment for mentors. So if there is anybody that would like to be a mentor, or if you know anybody that would like to be a mentor in that program, we're absolutely open to having an initial discussion with those folks. So that's Roundtable Revival. So are there any questions that anybody on the panel has about Roundtable or what we're doing? One other thing that I wanted to put out there. Right now, it is a men's program, so we are serving adult males that are coming out of incarceration or institutionalization, but the goal is hopefully by summer, fall of this year to also open up a women's program, because in talking to folks that work in treatment courts and the judges and those pieces, it's been identified that we absolutely could use a program like that here in Dunn County as well to serve the women population.
So how are you reaching the people coming out of incarceration to offer them this service?
So I've had some initial talks with Heather Pica over at the jail and Shelley Jo Metzger, but they've been initial talks that we've had with them. Right now we have in Eau Claire County, we have the ability to go in. Any of our mentors have the ability to go in and have conversations with people that have been identified as able to, that when they're going to be released, and already having that match take place before they're released, because there's a small window of time from the time they're released before we can fall back into old behavior, and just really we're trying to close that gap as much as we can. Ideally, what we'd like to have is something very similar here in Dunn County where we could do a match. right now, what I've been able to talk to Heather about is that personally, I can come in and anybody that's been identified as potentially being released, allowing me to come in and talk about the program. And then if they're interested, they can reach out once they're released. But I would really like to be able to have a presence within our correctional institute and be able to do some of those matches before they actually are released, because it's just been proven time and time again that if that match happens before, there's better outcomes and less recidivism that happens with that.
Sure. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure you're working with Heather and getting the ball rolling there.
Yeah. And then to be also transparent, I've also had several conversations with some of the probation officers. I've talked to Paul, I've talked to Garrett about, having some individuals that might be on the probation parole side of things that could potentially use a mentor as well. So, we're trying to branch out, and we're trying to make our service, first of all, known. It's brand new. Not a lot of people know who we are. We've been trying to do some, broad spectrum, talking about the program, getting it on people's radars. But I don't think when it comes to advertising, there's not enough that we can do, because I think it's a valuable program that we can use here in our community. Any other questions on anything that we talked about? Or, as somebody that is the program coordinator for both of these programs, I'm also very open to feedback from individuals such as yourself that are, steering some of these things and looking at some of these things. If you have suggestions, I definitely would be open to hearing them. Or if you want to have one-on-one conversations outside of this meeting, I'm definitely open to that. Sarah has my contact information, and I'm sure would be able to forward it to all of you if you want to have further discussion about any of the programs that WEMA has to offer or Roundtable itself. I'm definitely willing to do all of those pieces. And I think the big piece is a big thank you to all of you this morning for allowing me the opportunity to come talk about some of the community resources that I'm involved with here. I absolutely appreciate this group and all of the wonderful things that's happening because of this group. There are other counties that don't have a presence like this, and I definitely recognize that as somebody that works within the community with individuals directly that are being served. So a big thank you to all of you.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for your enthusiasm for meeting those unmet needs.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Andrew. I'll share
so much.
your information with the group if that's okay.
That's absolutely fine. Absolutely. Okay, well then I'm going to sign off and let you carry on with all the things that you need to do. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye-bye.
All right, so our next item on the agenda is the annual report for the county board, which is slated for May 15th.
All right, yeah, so our opportunity to come before the county board will be in May, which is fantastic. So I'm just looking for feedback, ideas, suggestions as far as the highlights that we want to present this year with our opportunity. So just kind of an open question for the group. Well, my intent is to do the lengthy annual report of all the ins and outs and things that we collectively accomplished across the system. So that'll be, written report, but we do have a couple of minutes that we can really focus on a particular program or aspect of what we're doing to increase awareness and support from the elected officials. So last year we did have Judge Meyer and Judge Peterson say a few words about their respective treatment court programs, which I think went well, and it's a nice opportunity to have that interaction with the county board. So just wondering if anything was really kind of bubbling to the top as far as interest or things that we just want to emphasize. Otherwise, I'll figure something out if there's no real, anything that's rising to the top.
I think this might be a good year to revisit the history of the CJCC, because we've had an enormous amount of turnover And that has not changed with this election. So I think they're probably, at this point, at least half the board has no idea about the whole thing, how it started, how we got here, why it's important. And I think that might be a really good topic for the new board.
If you have the ability, Sarah, to like maybe create even like some kind of an infographic about that, I think having that in hand. I mean, I know they'll have the annual report, but I'm skeptical about people's reading it in its totality, so.
Right, yeah, it's kind of like the Encyclopedia Chronicle, if people want to refer
Right.
back to anything in particular, but right, don't necessarily expect everybody to read it from front to cover.
Yeah, a
So
Cliff's
yeah, I like
Notes
the
version
idea.
or something that could be just kind of about the history and then all the stuff that is accomplished.
Yeah, not everyone is always on top of their homework for meetings, and I suspect that the new folks will be feeling perhaps a little more overwhelmed this year than they necessarily have in the past, just rolling in.
Well, great. I really appreciate the feedback, and I think that's absolutely something that we can accomplish for May 15th. So thank you. If anybody has any other ideas or suggestions, I'd welcome them. You can just email me or give me a call. So thank you.
Okay, great. Next item is the 2023 Smash Board. We didn't get to go into this at the large CJCC, and Sarah spent a lot of time gathering all this data. So I'm going to turn it over to her to give us the Cliff Note version of the highlights.
All right, thank you, Andrea. So I'm going to share my screen. This is the Smash Board that was introduced back at our last CJCC meeting. Unfortunately, we didn't have a lot of time, as Andrea mentioned. I sent it out in the packet, but thought it would be nice to spend a little bit of time kind of acquainting you to some of the data and information in the hopes that this can help inform areas of improvement, areas that we need to work on, or across the board. So are you able to see the Smash Board, the 2023 Smash Board?
Mhm.
Yes, okay. So this is something we've been doing for a number of years and really helps us collect data, not every data point, but certain data points year over year. This has been really critical information in supporting grant applications that we've sought out. So I'm going to start, this first section is really our jail data. So our jail produces a report once a month. That information is sent to me. All that information is really aggregated here. So we've got the month by month layout of the ins and outs of the jail. And then we've got the yearly totals here. So what I want to highlight is just our numbers are getting back. This is the average daily population. Our numbers are certainly getting back to more of that pre-pandemic level. Overall, the total bookings certainly are reaching that level. Looking across, we didn't see a whole lot of variations as far as the percentages of male and female coming through our system. Certainly, that's been pretty stable. Likewise, demographics has been somewhat stable over time. But what we have seen creep up quite a bit is the status of the individuals when they're in jail. So we look at some are pre-trial, held before their trial, so they're just accused of a crime, not convicted of a crime. We've got probation holds, and then we've got that sentence population. So as you can see, the sentence population has been decreasing over time, so is probation. But the pretrial population is increasing.
Sarah,
Please
sorry,
go ahead.
if I could just add to, I think it's just important to note in April of 2023, the bond amendment was enacted that allows judges to consider public safety and as opposed to the strict statutory outline. So I think I've been seeing, a little bit higher bonds ever since that amendment. So I think that might describe or explain some of the increase that we've seen in the pretrial population, is we can now consider additional factors when setting that initial bond.
And thanks for pointing that out, Andrea. That was a significant change that we saw this past year. And
And
that's
the
certainly-
numbers reflect that.
Yeah.
If you look at from April,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
the pretrial numbers, couple of months, but then by the time you get to, what is that, July? We're up.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're hitting the 50s and we've never done that. So yeah, you're right when we're looking at month over month. Yep. And anybody can jump in if you got a question or clarification or want to point something out. Looking at the law enforcement proxy data. So this is the quick screener that we're having law enforcement do to inform their decision to cite, to book, to bring somebody into jail. This is the first year that we've had the sheriff's office complete more than the Menominee Police Department. So woohoo for the sheriff's department, getting them regularly sent in. We have processes, they're all getting sent in to me. But it certainly has increased year over year, so it seems pretty routine. Numbers from MPD have been strong overall, but really looking at some of the information, what is surprising to me year over year is the trends have been really similar. So we're seeing that we've had the most proxies ever completed this past year, which is fantastic. 62% of them would be considered low risk. These aren't dynamic factors. These are really just static factors of age of first arrest, and number of prior arrests. But most of the people that law enforcement are coming into contact with are low risk. Good proportion or medium risk, and then the high risk are not nearly as many as we've been seeing in the past. So that's interesting. But that risk is just one screener. So as far as incomplete, we do see, roughly 10% or so are incomplete, and we're not able to calculate the risk level. And that could be because it wasn't filled out, or the person was uncooperative, or a whole variety of reasons. We're still seeing alcohol and other drug abuse, AODA, as the majority of the offense categories. So this past year, we had a little bit of a switch where we had more OWIs than meth as far as the percentage of those charges coming in on the proxies. And we still see 20% coming in for THC. So there's still those are the top three that we typically see most years, but OWIs surpassed meth. And then looking at secondary type offenses, these really can vary year to year, agency to agency, but disorderly conducts, kind of that catch-all, are another 15% of the offenses that are coming through. And then operating after revocation, 10%. So this is something you see more out in the county than you do in the city, but certainly it's a big proportion. I've recently learned there's a couple of counties that do OAR courts and really focus on how to get people their license back, because the system is so complicated, and if you've got limited income, people can get caught without their license for long periods of time. But that's certainly a rub that we see here. Demographics, I would just point that the number of veterans kind of to me, it went up, but when looking at the past years, it's not necessarily gone up, but we certainly are flagging those that are have served in the military, so we're able to connect them with appropriate resources as well. Probation numbers, about 14% of those that law enforcement are completing the proxy are on probation. So we are seeing those numbers reduce over time. So that just means people are, following the rules of probation more. Restitution, so that's when there's criminal damage or other things going on that the officer flags with restitution. And those numbers kind of go up and down, but really a lower level. And we're not seeing that many Stout students getting in contact with either MPD or do so overall. So most of them are probably handled by Stout in general. All right, I'm gonna go through the next area. This is the DA's office pre-charge diversion program. So here, this started back in 2016. The numbers dipped a little bit from 2022 from what we've typically been seeing. But overall, the stats are fairly good. We've got 71% are completing the program successfully. So since that program started, we've had 430 people complete that program. And most of them have not returned to the criminal justice system. So that is continues to be a successful program. Looking at the treatment opportunity program, this is our state TAD funded effort to divert people from traditional, jail time to focus on treatment, case management under a deferred agreement. So this past year, we've had staffing change where it was full-time staff for this program. So our numbers have gone up. So referrals certainly have went up over the past couple of years. The number that started the program has went up. The total number served has went up, and we expect that to go up even more coming into this year. So stats have been pretty steady here. So we see about 60% of the people complete the program successfully. And then those that don't, they return to court. So their case proceeds like it traditionally would. And some come back through the program with a second time and some don't. But, we are seeing the majority of people do well in TOP. If they do need more supports and aren't doing well, they usually bubble up to the level of treatment court accountability and get referred that way, or can have other traditional case processing. All right. Deferred acceptance of a guilty plea. These are DA office agreements. Just seeing our numbers went up 2023. So this is all agreements. This would include TOP and some of the other, different things, but numbers overall are kind of consistent. Clerk of court data. This is always interesting stuff here. So this is information that Katie Shalley's office provides. And we've been tracking it for a number of years. So as you can see, just the trends, going from 2017 to 2023, the number of hearings held has went up quite a bit. That was part of the reason we have 3 judges and had the need for 3 judges. Just the number of cases are they're busy. The number of failure to appear cases are also rising over time. So though the percentage is roughly, the same trend over time, just the number of cases has certainly went up. So this is when everybody's ready to go in court, but the individual defendant doesn't show up for whatever reason. So this one is a potential area for improvement, no doubt. We're not seeing a whole, as far as text message, we've got that service available. So we're encouraging people to sign up for text messages, but we're not necessarily seeing a big difference in appearance rate for people that get text messages and those that don't. All right, moving ahead. So this is the pretrial assessment protocol. This is where we have our pretrial services coordinator, Sandy Frigo, goes into the jail and meets with people that are booked and held into jail. We had a significant change in 2023. We implemented the public safety assessment. So that is a pretrial risk assessment that doesn't require a face-to-face interview. So our number of people that are actually getting assessed has went up in 2023 because of that switch. Which is great because before it was optional, but it required a face-to-face interview. But what we are seeing, so, our numbers went up, which is great. Our numbers of those that are booked and held went up, which means it's just busier for everybody. Those that were assessed went up to 45%. And then the percentage of those intakes that are failures to appear are 30%. So again, that's one kind of a sticking point that's been pretty stubbornly present in the past years. What I find really interesting this past year, is this is the mental health screeners completed. So this gives us a sense if somebody would have a diagnosed mental health issue. We're seeing that 73% of those assessed would be considered of having a high probability of a diagnosis. So, I mean, these are not necessarily all significant mental illness, but certainly where it's impacting a person's ability to function fully. That number has went up increasingly. So I think we're all anecdotally seeing that there's more mental health issues going on. There's more mental health issues going on in the jail and in other jails. And it is happening. We are seeing that in just the people that are coming through our doors. On the flip side, looking at our meth rates, so that these are the screener for problematic drugs, this is self-disclosure, so not everybody's necessarily being fully honest at the time of assessment, or it might be a process. But for those that, shared their information, we're seeing that alcohol was the primary this past year, with meth falling into that second place. So that is a switch. Typically, we've seen meth as just that stubbornly persistent, problematic drug out there. This year we're seeing alcohol, and I think that is also anecdotal that came out of COVID, and just some of the things that we're seeing is just that alcohol use. The average is not, mild, moderate, it's severe for alcohol and for meth, for heroin and opioids as well. But we're not necessarily seeing a whole lot of, other drugs coming through the at least this initial assessment phase. All right, moving along to the jail treatment program. So this is the medication assisted treatment, and now we were able to expand that to all sorts of substance use groups in the jail. This past year, we had 67 individuals referred for that medication assisted treatment, 33 signed on. So that was individuals that were found eligible, appropriate, and it was necessary. So, it looks like we're doing a good job of identifying those that could benefit from that. We're still seeing alcohol as the primary. This Vivitrol has been approved for alcohol use disorder for a long, long time. So, and that's, what we tend to see here as well. Almost at the end, so I know it's a lot of information. Looking at treatment court stats over time. So what's interesting here is the number of referrals really skyrocketed. We did implement a new referral system just a tighter referral system in 2023 with a pretrial services coordinator, making referrals early on in the system, individuals getting a chance to learn about it. We're going in reach in the jail, doing informational sessions, letting people know about these services that are available. So it's hard to say what all the factors are going on, but we certainly had a lot of people referred to the program, and we've had 20 people start the program, so which is double of what we would see in a typical year. So our conversations with treatment court is we're discussing wait lists and processes for what are we going to do when we've reached capacity, because we certainly are seeing more people come through the program. That's a good problem. This program was underutilized for a number of years, so it's good to see it at full capacity. Our full capacity is about 20, 24 max if we're just cranking through an hour of time. But 20 is a lot of people. These are all high risk, high need individuals, so they have complicated problems and issues and lives, frankly. So there's a lot of time and effort that goes into that population. Moving to our family treatment court, our number of participants has been steady. It's been low. This also has a capacity of about 20. Referrals this past year, We had a lot in 2022 and 21, but the referrals went down in 23. The number of people that started, pretty typical of what we've seen in previous years. Far as graduation, and it's a young program, so we're still it's easier to drop out of a program than it is to graduate from an 18-month program. So we do see more people tend to be terminated early on, but overall we're seeing a positive success rate here. So this team's spending a lot of time talking about how we can increase referrals, how we can, as a system, ensure that people that could benefit from family treatment court are getting included or being offered an opportunity to participate. With our family treatment court grant, we are working with technical advisors from some national organizations that really can help us look at other ideas and what other communities have done to increase program utilization. So we're getting some support in this area. One thing to note, I was going to save it for a staff report, but the family treatment court team was nominated by Paula Winter and was awarded the state Department of Family Services Secretary's Award for Innovation and Systems Change, putting families first. So the team will go down later in April to have dinner at the state capitol, or lunch, I should say, with the state capitol to be honored for this award. So again, we've got systems changes going on here. So we've got traditional parallel system, plus we're trying to do the family treatment court alternative. So it does take time, and it does take a lot of effort and tending to make these changes. But we're certainly getting recognized and have the funding through our family treatment court federal grant to continue these efforts at least through 2026.
Can I just comment? One of the pieces of that nomination was to describe how all of the members in the team really play a part of change and recovery for people. So it was great fun for me to describe the judge sitting at the picnic table across from one of the participants and having great conversation and, building relationships, and law enforcement kids in the law enforcement cars and with law enforcement officers, and reducing that fear of relationships, because we had the sheriff's department here with the dog and the car and all those things. So it was great fun to describe Dunn County in the unique ways that we really do business in helping people move through systems. So thanks for letting me share that.
Yeah, nice job, Paula, because
Yeah,
you brought home the bacon there.
we did, but it's because of the team, the team. Not every judge will participate in these type of things. So it's lifting up each of you.
Right. Winding down, this might be the last page here, law enforcement deflection and diversion. So these are Project Hope efforts, and you'll see from 2022 to 2023, the programs really got off the ground. So this is mostly talking about the deflection side of the house, the diversion. They're still working on developing. But they're getting referrals from other law enforcement agencies. They are using their quick response deployment. That's the law enforcement, behavioral health, and Arbor Place going out together. They're getting out there, seeing people. They're making referrals to treatment. People are accessing treatment, and they're also training on some of the harm reductions with Narcan. The Angels of Red Cedar hasn't been utilized quite as much, but those are drop-off centers still available and with connections to treatment. But that's continues to develop and overall become a greater impact with our behavioral health officers. So I'm going to stop sharing here. Return to some faces. I guess any questions?
I have a question, Sarah. Are you seeing, or is Shelley Jo seeing people taking advantage of medication assisted treatment, primarily Vivitrol, in jail for alcohol?
Yeah, that was like 66% of them.
Okay, so that was actually the number that are utilizing it.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yes. And what's interesting, we're finding that it's the difficulty for people to get that continuation of MATL in the community. Insurance, if you are lucky enough to have your own private insurance, it probably doesn't cover Vivitrol. If you have Badger Care, it'll cover it 100%. So there's a big insurance cliff and a gap when it comes to some of these MAT in particular. But it's challenging continuing them out in the community with insurance and all the hoops that they have to jump through and finding a provider and then following through and yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for the question.
Okay, Sarah, do we need to take up the grants at this? Is there an action item we need to take, or is this just a information?
Well, a little bit of information. So I guess I'm looking for feedback and recommendations on what we want to do. So there are a number of grants out there, and you know, we've been successful in bringing grants collectively to the county. So Menominee Police, they approached on a grant, Connect and Protect. So they're looking for us as the CJCC to apply for a federal grant to implement a co-responder type model. This is really taking our behavioral health officers and Project Hope to the next level, where they would have a dedicated kind of social work type person working with them. Right now, MPD envisions this individual would be working under the CJCC and would be housed over here, but working with Menominee Police as they need, and the sheriff's office as they need that co-responder. So really somebody to help when we're dealing with somebody with mental health issues. Some of the barriers they've seen is, you know, behavioral health as it stands now with QRT, they can't just drop their work and appointments for the day and run out and go do stuff with law enforcement. So law enforcement really are craving that social work type person to be dedicated to some of the efforts. And if they weren't working on, and they really see it as a follow-up. So somebody's in crisis, they're able to help reduce that, but then they need that follow-up care. They need to be familiar with what other programs and services are available. But then Aaron and Becca need to kind of load this individual to somebody to get some ongoing case management. So that's part of what they're looking for. Since this involves my department, this involves working collaboratively across the system, I felt it was important to bring it to the CJCC. So the problem with all these grants is we got a month to get it out the door, right? So if it is something, we've got to do all the work to even figure out what we want, and then ask for letters of support and get that all done within a month. So at this point, we don't quite know what we're asking for, so it's hard to get a letter of support. But I think that's, if we're going to pursue this, we would need some support from folks to do that. And then the second grant opportunity is a federal grant to continue substance use disorder and reentry support for people that are in jail and then transitioning out into the community. So this is something that we have some of those services ongoing with Shelley Joe in the jail and Heather Pica and doing some reentry work. This would be funding for something new and better than what we currently have. We know that the grant that Shelley Joe's funded is going to be ending in September. So we are facing some sort of, the program is going to be shifting in ways that we're not fully aware yet. So this is an opportunity to continue that. I did sit in with a session yesterday, and we can use it to support staff, substance use counselors in jail. So we could use it to continue, but we would have to do something new from what we've done in the past. The federal grants are great, but what we're hearing is they don't want one grant filling in for when another grant ends. And that's what we have in both of these situations. So So I guess I'm just circling back to the group, we, as far as, what we want to do, I want to build as much as we can, but we also have capacity, on things. So, I'm going to stop talking and get some feedback from the group here.
Just to clarify, Sarah, so this isn't something that, this new grant, we couldn't, replace the funding that's ending in September for Shelley Joe's position? They'd, or we'd have to change
We
it?
could. So this grant, they're only going to award 6 of them nationwide, but it could, we could use it to fund Shelley Joe's position. But this would be, we would have to focus on more reentry. It would be doing what we're doing now, but more too. We'd have to do more to show that we have a need for the funding. I think Shelley Joe's been doing great on the in-house stuff. I think where that program struggles is once people are out in the community, and she's doing as much as she can to help, but sometimes there's nowhere to refer them to. So if we were looking for this type of grant, maybe it would be to add some supports on that reentry side, but it would be a significant chunk of change. I think it's like 330,000 or something a year. For that federal grant. The odds of us getting it probably aren't that great because there's only 6 awards. But yes, it could be used to continue and enhance what we already have going on with the jail program. The other grant, they're going to be issuing 17 awards, and there's a cost match involved in that one that MPD is looking at, and they saw it as my time, Aaron's time could be the match already in place there. Chris, you're muted, but your lips are moving.
Maybe that's best. I would just say, I think both potential options are good options to pursue, or I don't know if good's the right word, but viable options to pursue. The question that I would have would be our internal capacity to add more.
Right. We are getting our program assistant position
Right.
filled soon. That's been a big challenge because we don't necessarily have, all these staff support on what we're doing. I think if we're able to take grants and offload them onto agencies to operate, I think, for example, if the sheriff's department wants support in applying for this grant and figuring out what we're looking at, but then we can offload it to the sheriff's department to do the day-to-day reporting and different things. I mean, that's one option. But yeah, I think the mechanics of it can be challenging. Yeah.
Well, especially just because those federal grants just tend to be kind of cumbersome as well. At least, not including your family treatment court one doesn't sound like it is so much, but considering I spent an hour yesterday unsuccessfully to change the point of contact on the Just Grants site, it's like everything takes a long time with them.
Yeah, and that's my concern is, the capacity for us to be able to do that. I mean, even if, I would probably literally have to hire somebody to try and manage that, because otherwise it would be just taking away, Becca's time on the street where she needs to be, meeting with people.
Yeah, I guess.
So I guess in that sense, Sarah, if you want us, if you need us to weigh in more purposefully, I'm good with that. If we can defer to you to say, if it fits within your workload, especially as you add a program support person, assistant, and you think there's a go for one or both. I mean, I'm comfortable with deferring to you to make the decision, but if you need us to do that, we can do that as well.
All right. Yeah, I think currently we have 3 MAT grants and they're all ending. So those responsibilities are going away. So I think there could be something there. Because that's going to be done. We can take on something more, possibly. So I guess I'll continue to trug along with these two. And if the stars align and we get things working in just grants, we have a lot of the background material already for these grants, and that we've already written grants for these kind of things. So we're not starting from a, blank piece of paper. But then if we get the money, that means we've got more work to do. So we just need to be prepared to do that if that's the case.
I'm a little worried that didn't you say that the Connect and Protect grant is only 6 awards that'll happen?
That one's 19 awards. It's the reentry, substance use reentry is 6 awards. Yeah.
I'm a little concerned about you spending time. I mean, not that I control your time at all, but I'm a little concerned about you spending time and, I don't write grants, but I if people be frantic about getting them completed and, if there's only 6 awards and are we overwhelming you, for example, with just 6 awards?
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
that would be my concern. One of the
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. And maybe if it's not this particular grant, there could be other federal grants out there that we might have better odds with, but maybe doing some of this legwork to see how we can bolster those services and, and kind of weigh the risk and reward for doing all the work. But some of the work, if we laid it out, could be used in the future too, for other grant awards that come out. All right, thank you,
All right,
everybody. I
well-
appreciate feedback.
Yeah, I'm gonna, we're already 5 minutes past our meeting time, so I'm just gonna move to adjourn. And thank you, Sarah, for all your hard work on that data and on these grants, and appreciate all you do. So,
Thank you. Appreciate it.
yep, thank you. You guys have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah.